Good afternoon. Today we're talking about functioning inside of dysfunction, a concept that I have developed over time, and I hope that you find it as informative as I found it interesting to write. So let's start from the beginning. What does it mean to function inside of dysfunction? Our childhood is the blueprint of how we occupy space before our children. What that's saying is the the things that we do in front of our children is us remembering how our parents did things, how the people that were around us did things, and how we saw that things come together. Now, sometimes those things could have been very, very problematic. They could have been very dysfunctional. But because we know how to function inside of that atmosphere, it's easier to recreate that atmosphere even when we don't like it. How we interpret our childhood became our base for personal decision making. We learned to maneuver in that space, in the space of how we saw our parents behave, in the space of how we saw neighbors behave. If something happened and you witnessed it as you were growing up, your brain remembered the outcome. Now, if the outcome was favorable or there was a measure of being favorable, you're likely to still recreate it and adjust or where it went off course. Some people continue to reproduce that same atmosphere or that same lifestyle, even when they don't like it, even when they're miserable. That's the only lifestyle that they know. So they continue to reproduce it over and over and over and over, destroying relationship after relationship because they are inside of dysfunction and don't even realize that they're inside dysfunction. And when you meet someone that is functioning on your level, in the same measure of dysfunction, there's no other way but for chaos to occur. As we age, even if we don't like the environment that we were raised in, we will likely duplicate that environment unless conscious effort is made not to. As stated previously, we know how to function in that environment. Everything else is foreign. If you grew up in an environment where there was alcoholism, sexual abuse, violence in your home, you know how to maneuver in that environment. You know how to get out of the way. You know how to stay quiet. You know how to get ghosts. You know how to leave. You know how to do everything in that environment. Now you create an environment where you want the opposite for you and your family. You get married and you want to be a calm, peaceful home, but you have nothing to go back into your memory to reproduce that. So the chaos that you created, even when everything is harmonious in your home, little things can be done to antagonize a relationship or to antagonize an environment so that you can become more comfortable in that environment. Now, what happens is you create that environment even when there was no premise for it. And then once you create it, now it begins to get too unbearable. And then you end up separating, or you end up divorced, or you end up leaving that relationship because of the chaos. But then you enter another relationship and you create the same chaos. If you grew up in a single parent home, this is how you can see how diverse this functioning inside of dysfunctioning is. If you grew up in a single parent home, you learn to function in the space of one parent in your home. That's neither good nor bad. I'm not saying that you're better off or you're worse off. I'm just saying that you learn to function inside that environment where there was only one person that had to sign off on you going somewhere. Only one person had to come up with the finances for you to get what you need. Now, you meet someone and they grew up in a two-parent home. Now that you have different perspectives, not saying that it can't work, it's just that you have different perspectives on how to function. And sometimes the inability to relate to one parenting style causes discourse. One parent says, I'm the final say so. I make the last decision. The other parent says, why can't we come together? And because there is no room for you to go back into your memory and pull back on information on how to cohabitate in parenting, many times it creates discourse. This is not saying that you won't be able to work it out. It is saying that there will be that you just have different parenting styles and should render alternative perspectives for someone that witnessed their parents divorcing when they were 10. Now, a single parent, a parent, someone that had only one parent in the home, someone had that both parent in homes, someone where there was a divorce at the age of 10, someone where there's a divorce at the age of 16, someone where your parents stayed married until you were 30, and then they divorced. All of those are going to render different parenting styles. So when you come together, the first thing we say is, do you love me? I love you. Let's get married. And nobody talks about how we're going to parent our children, what we're going to do, how we're going to implement religion in our household. What is our core beliefs? Nobody talks about that anymore. Very few people, should I say, talk about that. We don't come together on those basic principles. How are we going to manage our finances? In my mom's home, she did all the books. She took care of all the bills. She paid what she could. When it couldn't get paid, we just pushed it back to the next payday. Versus someone that's very studious and financially astute, and they say, no, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. We set up a payment plan. This is this, and then sometimes you get chaos. Sometimes you get bickering back and forth. You're functioning in two different functions, and now they have become dysfunctional. How different are these differences? These differences can be catastrophic, or they can be subtle. Other differences would include a single mother that was raised by a single father. I spoke of that earlier. I got ahead of myself. Versus a single mother that was raised by two parents, and still a single mother that was raised by a single mother. Now consider all of the differences now include having a strong support system and not having a support system. What that's saying is, consider all the differences that I said in the previous slide. Consider all the differences that I just read. Now, have a single parent that's raising two young ladies, and she has a strong support system. Now you have a single parent male that's raising two young men, and he doesn't have a strong support system, and they cohabitate, they come together. Now you got two different strong family styles. You got two different functions. You got completely two different worlds coming together to create dysfunction. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be a discrepancy. Does this mean that it's not going to work? Nope. It just means that in order for it to work, there's going to have to be work. You're going to have to put in the work in order for it to work. The disparities can be endless. Knowing your partner, friends, co-workers' background can give you clarity on their level of function or dysfunction. That is not to say that you go to work tomorrow, or you go to work the next day or next week and start side-eyeing your co-workers, your bosses, or you start asking questions about who raised you and what type of parenting style. That is to say that if the conversation comes up, you can see how your thinking styles are different. And once you notice that people are different based on their thinking styles and based on what their function or dysfunction, then your level of empathy can increase. It's not right, wrong, it's just different. And that's, I believe, is the core disparity of why we have such chaos. Is because we just have different thinking styles. And because this thinking style works in my environment, but if I tell you what to do with your life, my decisions will not work or likely won't work in your life because we have different thinking styles. Even if you try to implement what I tell you to do and it works 100% for me, it may not work for you because your thinking style is different. There is no right or wrong thinking style. There is only a different in thinking styles. And if it's working for you, continue to work it. If it's not working for you, that's when you have to address it. If it's preventing you from maintaining a relationship, consider adjusting your thinking style. If it's preventing you from even getting past the get to know stage of a new relationship, consider your thinking style. All of these are things that you can do. Nothing about the other part, your partner. Is this real? Now, I said all of that to say, is all of this real? The lifestyles that your child is raised in becomes a way of life. Children learn how to adjust to the environment they are required to experience. When meeting someone that does not have the same experiences, they can be considered different or weird. A common saying that I've heard amongst clients is, he's too soft, nice, passive, etc. She's different from what I'm used to. Many have learned to function in an environment where the opposite was dominating, passive, aggressive, outspoken, or demanding. And though we may desire different, we gravitate back to what we know because we know how to function around someone with those traits. And we have no clue how to maneuver around someone that's opposite or what's desired or what you desire. We don't know how to function around someone that's just lackadaisical, that just doesn't get upset. Sometimes that's frustrating to someone that's very high end, very, on like go, 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 go. And someone that won't make a decision, they think about every decision. That is frustrating. I've been there. How do you know? How do you learn to function outside of your dysfunction? Acknowledge that there's a problem. Do a self-evaluation. Acknowledging is half the battle. Evaluate yourself. Identify what behaviors that you possess that you want to tweak or stop. Find out what you want to get rid of. I don't like being like this particular thing, not just saying I don't like being me. What does that mean? I call those, or I like when I'm nice. What does that mean? And we spoke about in a previous workshop on the difference between nice and kind. I encourage you to go back. I can't remember which one, but if you have time, go listen through them all. If you don't desire to live in a hostile environment where there is arguing, stop arguing. Hush. Be mindful that the environment that you create will be the environment that your children choose to recreate, even if they don't like it. They have learned how to move around in the environment that is in your home right now. Stay mindful of your behavior. If it can be easy, stay mindful of your behavior. It can be easy to return to past behaviors in a crunch or when you're frustrated. It can be easy, quite easy, to go back and do what has worked in the past or what you know in the past, because if you're here, then it's likely your past behaviors haven't worked. So it can be easy to go back to that, but be mindful, stay mindful. If you find that you're getting upset, then remove yourself from the environment. I put myself on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is passive. I'm chilled. I'm relaxed. There's nothing chaotic going on in my life. A 10 is I'm about to strangle somebody. I monitor myself consistently every day. When I'm engaged with someone, I mentally monitor myself. What number are you on, Yvette? If I get above a 5, I excuse myself, because anything above a 5, my mouth get reckless. Yes, I am educated. Yes, I know better. Yes, all of those pretty things. But when I get frustrated, my mouth get reckless. So I remove myself. I excuse myself and I'll come back. Once I get myself back down to a 1 or 2, but through breathing, walking, talking, self-talk, then I come back and then I go again. Stay mindful of your behavior. You are responsible for you. You are not responsible for your partner. You are responsible for you. Also, be the first to acknowledge when you've messed up, and be specific. Don't just say I messed up, my bad. Identify the specific behavior that sucked you back into your dysfunction. In substance abuse, we call those triggers. What specific thing was said or done that got you back to where you were? Get someone to hold you accountable, not someone, likely your partner, because sometimes that can be antagonistic and we don't want that. But get a friend, get someone that you can talk to. If you can't find anybody to talk to, go find your counselor. Get someone to talk to that hold you accountable for your behavior, someone that's not afraid to tell you when you have crossed the line. Plan to remain in a loving, caring, supportive, productive environment. Leave nothing to chance. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I've heard that saying all my life. If you have a plan, then you can stay in a positive environment. I will not curse in my home. I will not yell in my home. If I get above a 5, I will remove myself, either go to a separate room, because I will not be toxic to anyone in my environment. My children will see me, if they see me escalate to a situation, I will allow them to see me de-escalate, because allowing your child to witness you get to a point of hostility and then you go away and come back and you're calm, they have no idea how you got back down to calm. So if they see you escalate, they have to see you de-escalate. It teaches them that they can mimic that behavior. If I get upset, remove myself and breathe. Oxygen, your brain needs oxygen. You are at a point where you are in fight, flight, or freeze. And once you're in that point, you stop thinking. Stay positive. Even if you relapse, adjust, identify, and create an environment for you to fall back to. Even if you relapse, adjust. Identify what created the environment for you to fall back and relapse to the behaviors, and remove them. Find what happened that caused you to go back to that behavior. What specific thing happened? Failing to remove obstacles in your life allows you to fall in time versus right now. It's not when you're going to fall, not if you're going to fall, it's when you're going to fall. What if you don't want what you don't want in your life? Remove it and replace it with what you do want. In substance abuse, I reference that often because that is another one of our specialties where I work. But we talk about triggers. We talk about if you're in substance abuse, if you're in substance recovery, then removing all substance abuse, all substances from your house that can cause you to relapse is ideal in that environment, to remove it all, because whenever you get stressed, whenever you get frustrated, it's easy to say, this is what I used to do to get me out of this mental space, this negative mental space. That may be difficult if it's somebody, but the triggers you can identify and you can minimize those. I came up with these acronyms to AFT, every problem in your life. AAF, apologize. My bad is not an apology. I am sorry. Now, what comes after I am sorry is acknowledgement, the exact behavior that was undesirable. I am sorry that I cursed when we decided that, or we agreed that there would be no cursing in the home. I will fix this by adjusting my behavior myself. If I find myself rising up and my temperature increasing, in my personal temperature increasing to above a 5 or above a 4, some people may be a 2. If I find myself getting to a point where I am increasing in my anger, then I will adjust myself. I will remove myself. And I will move in AF, moving forward. I will not apologize for the same thing every day or every week, the same behavior, because then you have not AFT. Because AFT is apologize, acknowledge, and fix. Fixing means it's not that way anymore. It's not, you're not doing that same behavior. Changing behaviors occurs by developing a plan, executing that plan, not by telling yourself repeatedly that you aren't the same person. I hear people often say, I'm different, I've changed, I'm not the same person that I used to be. And then I ask the question, who else would say that? Are you the only one that would say that you are changed? If that's the case, then it's likely that you haven't changed. You're just trying to convince yourself that you've changed. If you don't trust yourself, you will never be able to trust another person. That comes with infidelity, that comes with problematic behaviors. If you can't trust yourself to do whatever you're accusing your partner of, then that's going to be a problem for you and your partner. I threw that one in because sometimes the inability to trust is the biggest issue that goes on in a relationship, because we witnessed it with our parents. We witnessed it with our uncles and aunts. So now we don't trust. And now because we don't trust, we want to know everything about our partner. And it's many times we deflect. It's that many times we don't trust ourselves around a significant other, or not significant, our trust ourselves around the opposite sex or the same sex. So we deflect that onto our partner. If that doesn't apply to you, then skip past that section. Compare yourself to the last version of yourself, not to others. That's one of the biggest issues that I'm finding. People are saying, I'm 30 years old, I'm 40 years old, I'm 50 years old, and I don't have this, or this. And then I ask, the last version of you, what were you doing? Because every year we should be able to articulate a version of ourselves. And if we are moving to a better version of ourselves from the last version, then you're going in the right direction. If you aren't, then that's what you need to compare yourself to, not to someone else. When you enter a relationship and prior bonds have not been broken, the relationship becomes stagnant. Now, I just threw that in. That's an outlier. I thought about my grandmother when I thought of that one. And my grandmother would always tell me, well, she told me probably a few times. She says, baby, never open a door when you haven't closed all the other ones. And at the time I was young and I did not understand. But now I understand I apply it to a relationship. If you have bonds that you are still holding on to, if you're trying to see or understand what happened in your last relationship, or you just want some closure from your last relationship, and you have already entered another relationship, that is going to put your current relationship in a stalemate, in a mark time march. You're going to be in a position where moving forward is going to be very difficult, and your partner may become frustrated. The next one, negative emotions stem from fear. Some people say, no, they don't. That's not me. If I have negative emotions, it's because my partner did this, and this. And then I say, because your partner did this and this, what is the outcome? What is the possible outcome that you're thinking of because your partner did this? Let's use this in a scenario. Your partner is working at an office, and he or she begins to work late. And you start to give them, the business about coming in late. You're always late. You're doing this, and this. I don't understand why you're here, why you can't come home. Now, what is the underlying fear? The underlying fear could be they're having an affair. The underlying fear could be they're losing interest in you. The underlying fear could be that they don't want to be home anymore. So negative emotions stem from fear. If that does not apply to you, skip right on by it. Surround yourself with people that have your best interests at heart and won't allow you to say you're doing your best. Do better than your best. We tell ourselves many times that I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. And is it really your best? Or is it just something that I call pretty words that you can tell somebody, well, I did this, and this, and then your friends are likely to say, you know what, you did the best you could. And they're likely to tell you that you did the best you could before you say you did the best you could. So somebody is likely to tell you, you're doing the best you could. If you're doing the best you could and you keep hearing that over and over, and now you begin to repeat it, I did the best that I could. Did you do the best that you could? If you did, then this doesn't apply. But if you didn't, if there was something else that you could have did, then that you are obligated to do that. If you don't feel like you should, then this doesn't apply to you. In a relationship is existing independently within the confines of commitment. I say that, and that's another outlier that I throw in, because many times we use the phrase and it's biblical that you are two and you shall become one. Now, what happens when people take that literally is they stop doing everything independently and they want to do everything together. Now, if that's working for you, then continue to do it. But if it's starting to become smothering, I encourage everyone to have a life outside of your partner. There is something you should be able to do: play racquetball, go play football with the guys, play basketball with the guys, go shopping with the girls, go on vacation with the girls outside of going on vacation with your significant other all the time. Now, again, if that does not work for you and your family, then skip by this. But if it's causing chaos, if it's causing dysfunction that you're always with your partner, then you have to be able to get to a point where you can allow your partner to experience life outside of you and with you. Now, a relationship is existing independently within the confines of commitment. What that means is, even when I'm not with you, does not mean I'm not committed to you. Even when I'm not with you does not mean I'm not committed to you. It's just mean I'm not with you. Trusting your partner is you convincing yourself that your partner is faithful and is moving for the betterment of the relationship. Now, not trusting your partner is you convincing yourself that your partner does not have the betterment of the relationship as their focus. It's not what your partner is doing. Even if your partner is operating in infidelity, you have convinced yourself likely that they are operating in infidelity. My question to you now is, what if they are? What are you going to do now? If you don't have an answer to that question, then I need you to get an answer to that question before you begin to confront your partner, before you begin to throw accusations or give accusation, even if you have proof. After all of that is said and done, what are you going to do? What if your partner denies it? And you have proof, you have pictures, you have recordings, but your partner still denies it. What are you going to do? If you don't have an answer to that, everything that you've done is frugal. It means nothing. What are you going to do? If you find out that this is true, what is your next move? If your next move is nothing, then why even address it? If your next move is something, if you have a plan in place, then address it. Or even maybe you don't even need to address it. Just operating your plan, whatever that may be. Having your partner as your only friend creates smothering relationships. That goes back to what I said earlier. Now, if that does not work for you, then skip it. But if it does, then address it. The overactive mind. This is my favorite part of this whole thing. The overactive mind is the part of the brain that fills in the details of what's happening, who's involved, and the outcome. This type of brain activity is highly effective in storytelling. Go write a book. If you have an overactive mind, stop destroying your relationship and go write a book. You probably can make a lot of money. Quiet your mind. Sit in a place of quietness and think about nothing. Even if you have to keep saying to yourself, I will think about nothing. I will think about nothing. I will think about nothing. After a while, it will be very easy to not even allow your mind to wander off into what I got to do next. Quiet your mind. And that's it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if you would like for me to come to your facility, your house, your environment, and do any of the workshops that I've previously done, or if you have a specific topic that you would like for me to do, get in contact with me through any of these methods, and we'll make arrangements. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be around for a while.